Hi, I'm Kalman Caraway and welcome to this video. This one is a continuation of the voice and phone usage training, sort of, the soft skill part. Basically, we did go through a couple of things in the first video, like setting up the microphone and position and all that basic stuff. This would be more about the communication, about handling the calls themselves. So regarding that, the first one, which is really important, is for you to take control of the call. You don't have to be pushy, you don't have to be aggressive or really like perceivably controlling the person on the other end, but you do have to nudge them into the right direction quite often. This means on one part, when the caller is trying to go into just rambling on or actually ranting about problems, just venting their anger and all that, to a certain degree you can let that happen, but try to refocus their attention to the actual problem and the solution of the problem. Most of the companies have a sort of a time limit for the calls, the average handling time, as it's usually called. That's basically the average amount of time that you can spend on your calls. This is usually either 10 minutes or 12 minutes or 15 minutes. It depends on the nature of the work. Especially in IT support, quite often it's impossible to keep up this average handling time, because some of the cases are so complicated that it's basically impossible to resolve them in 10-12 minutes. But in general customer support, there's usually no problem with that, because they don't have that complex issues. So you do have the liberty of pushing the customer a bit back to pay attention to the actual ongoing issue. Quite often they will appreciate that. The only exception is when someone is really angry, when they really call you in a state that they are near exploding and they really just need to let off a bit of steam. In that case, let them go on. Let them just let it out of their system and let them run a few laps. And when you feel that they are kind of getting to the end of it, like they are really getting a bit slower and not so aggressive in their speech and all that, then you can try to refocus them. And, oh, okay, I fully understand your situation and we're sorry for that, but let's focus on how we can resolve that, okay? Or let me help you find a solution for this that would be fitting your needs and things like that. It can be really beneficial to refocus them. Especially in some cultures. I mainly have experience with German customers. They really like to get back to the solution of the problems. Like they don't want that much emotional support or pandering or putting them at ease. No, solve the problem. That is what will relax them. Solve it and that's it. So yeah, you have to calculate, so to say, in which culture, which language, which type of work environment you are. And from that you can gauge how much time could be wasted on the calls with non-focused activity. Now, this is also kind of part of the, so to say, the assertive communication, that you have to show confidence and keep a firm grip on the flow of the call, because this way you can prevent the customer from slipping into unnecessary rambling. This happens quite often. For example, when you're working on something on their computer with remote control, or you're looking up something in the system, you can combine this with the so-called active listening. Basically, what I do is that I narrate what I'm doing. I'm informing the client about what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just looking up this information and let me see, oh, there's something interesting. Let's see what the others did, what was going on, what's the history of this. So not that quickly, but I do provide sort of a narration of what I'm doing, but this keeps the clients engaged. It's much better than just putting them on hold and they listen to some awful music with low quality and just screeching in their ears, because that just makes them more angry. But usually when they hear and they get involved in the investigation and the solution of their problem, they appreciate it much more than anything else. And in the end, even if you cannot find a solution for their problem, even if it doesn't lead anywhere, or it just gets into sort of an in-between situation and you have to wait for another team to finish up, they will still appreciate your efforts. They will say that, yeah, I see that you try to do everything possible, so that I really appreciate it. And at least, even if the problem is not immediately resolved, you will still get a positive feedback. They will fill out a survey or provide some kind of response to your activities, and you will get a positive point in the company, which is really, really beneficial for your future, usually. All in all, this whole controlling the call is really a combined thing. Just letting them vent a bit, refocus their attention, and don't let them hanging. Don't let them lose attention. Don't let them just wait for something, but really just keep them engaged in the conversation. Also, an extra thing, in some companies, they do actually measure how long you leave a customer on hold, like just listening to music. And the lower the number, the better. And that's really, really useful, because simply with letting them get engaged with your call through active listening and narrating what you're doing at the moment, yeah, that helps a lot. And it gives a more professional look for your activities for your bosses and your supervisors. And that is really, really good in the long term, on the long run. A lot of people, when they start at a company or when they are in the early stages, and sometimes this sticks with them for longer, they panic in advance. They simply sort of overthink and analyze things, and they start panicking in advance on what type of calls they will get, what type of situations will come up, and this can actually lead to long-term negative effects, like negative psychological effects. For example, you can actually develop a sort of phobia regarding phone ringing and phone calls. This does happen with a lot of people, and even I went through a phase like this, that just the mere sound of a phone ringing just made me jerk together and like, oh, what's going on? Okay, yeah, just a phone call, because that was immediately sort of a reminder of an attack on your peace of mind, that someone has a problem which I have to solve immediately and all that. So don't overthink it. Whatever call comes, it will come. You'll cross that bridge when you get there. There's no reason for you to constantly prepare for what calls might come through, what problems might arise. Just pick up the call, do the introduction, and then listen to what the problem is, and try to focus on keywords that you can use to look up the solution in a system, or you might already know the solution for them. But always let the customer explain the whole situation. Even if you, by the first couple of sentences, you already know what the problem is, let them finish. Because if you interrupt them in their explanation, that will be just rude, and they will get quite annoyed by that. Also, it might be that the initial description of the issue reminds you of a certain problem that you already resolved 100 times, but it might come up in the later part of the explanation that there's some special factor in the whole thing, like a small special extra thing that's putting the whole issue in a completely different environment and a completely different part of the whole system. So let them explain, let them provide you with all their experiences regarding the problem. And then when you have the full picture, double check with your questions to clarify the situation, and then make your assumptions, then deduct where the source of the problem is and how that can be resolved. Countless times I've seen and heard this with colleagues, and even I ran into this problem that I assumed that, oh yeah, I already know what the problem is, and no, it was a different kind of problem because something came up a bit later that, oh, but they already made something that was actually causing this, and that's why it looked like the other issue. So it can get really complicated, but just make sure that it's not just your communication that's clear, but you also let the client communicate towards you, communicate the information about their problem, and this way you can be far more effective in your work, and they will not be annoyed, and they will receive a proper solution for their problem, for the actual problem that they have. Also, regarding problem solution, try to focus on providing permanent solutions. There's a bit of a tendency with quite a number of agents in these jobs, and I've seen this hundreds of times. I usually worked in companies where I was surrounded by 60 to 120 people, and they were constantly changing their position, like there was such an overflow and cross flow of people in these companies that I got to know hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And with a lot of them, they tend to get into a phase where the calls are just unpleasant for them, and they don't want to get really engaged with the customers. They just want to get over the call as quick as possible. They simply want to get rid of the customer. Now, this is really bad, because you might end up in the numbers looking good, like that you have a lot of calls and you have fairly short calls. But whenever someone from a quality team listens in and they hear that you were rushing the customer, that you were pushing them, you are not paying attention, or you just try to feed them some placebo instead of an actual solution, that's really, really bad, because that customer didn't get a satisfactory solution to their problem, so they will call back. So you're actually just generating more work, generating more calls for the company, and wasting the resources of the company. So whenever possible, try to, after you already know what the problem is, find a permanent solution, not just a quick plaster and let's cover it up and let's move on. No, find a permanent solution, and if it's possible, then try to provide some sort of advice which will prevent the returning of that problem. In a lot of cases, people, especially in IT, the clients cause their own problems. They made some mistake in the system, they didn't know how something works, or there are some hidden features, and they accidentally cause problems. Now, regarding this, it can be really beneficial if you give them the advice how they can prevent the problem from reoccurring. This way, basically, you will reduce the number of incoming calls, because they don't have to call back. And the next time this issue would come up, first of all, it wouldn't come up because they don't make the same mistake. Or, in case you provided a solution that they themselves can easily execute, they won't call because they already have the solution and they can solve it by themselves. And this will help the entire company to focus more on the hard issues, on the really complicated issues, instead of wasting resources on the quick, easy to solve problems, which really wouldn't need any actual help. This can be really, really, really beneficial. Now, just as an extreme example, this happens quite often, luckily not that often anymore, but I did hear quite a few examples of this. The most extreme form of getting rid of the customer is when they don't even talk to the customer. They pick up the call and hang up, and that's it. Now, this is quite often not the problem of the agent, but it comes from management, some middle or lower position management people, because they focus solely on the numbers in the system, that we have to pick up this amount of calls, we must make sure that we are not losing any calls, and they think the easiest one is just pick it up, hang up, pick up, hang up, pick up, hang up. Just get rid of them from the line, get rid of them from the waiting queue, and then that all will be well. But with this method, they are not solving anything. They are not solving the problems of the callers, and the callers will just call back again. And you will basically just keep hanging up on a never-ending flow of calls because they still have the problem. They need to find a solution, and you're the only source of solution. So this is one of the most insane, really, really dumb methods that I've heard. And they were wondering why they are not making any money and why their whole company is collapsing. Well, because someone down the line of management made this quite dumb decision to handle things like that. So if you're in a team where the boss tells you to do this, quit as quick as possible. Just get out of that company, because if this comes from the management, then they really lost track of what they are supposed to be doing. So no, don't engage that. Just quit, get out of there, and leave them, because that company is going down very, very quickly. That's for sure. So yeah, but if you provide permanent solutions and provide advices like how to fix something, how to prevent issues, that can be really beneficial, and the client will be really, really satisfied, because the client satisfaction based on the feedback will be extremely positive. Like, you can clearly see the difference between a customer review that came from someone whose problem has been resolved but came back later, or someone whose problem has been resolved permanently, or someone whose problem has been resolved and received information how to prevent that problem or how to fix that problem in the future. Those are the best ones, and they will specifically bring up your name in the review, that this agent was really awesome and really helpful and was really beneficial for the whole workflow and everything. So it's really worth it, because you will get the best rates from the customers that way. But in customer support, they quite often put a very strong emphasis on empathy, or being empathetic, and really showing that we understand the problem of the customer and feel for them. Now, this is important. This is really crucial part of your work, but actually try not to overdo it. Most of the time when someone calls, they want a solution, as I said. They don't want empathy. Empathy is nice, but they want primarily a solution. They didn't call you to chat with you for hours about their problem. They called you to quickly get this over with and get it done and have a proper solution. In some cases, I've heard that when I had to listen in on other agents, sort of a quality check, and just to hear what actually was going on during the conversation, some people can overdo this in an extreme way. Like, keep saying, sorry, yes, we're sorry, we understand, we're really sorry. And they do it in a way that they are actually interrupting the customer. And I did hear this with my own ears, and I was really surprised that the agent was constantly showing empathy with these remarks, but literally cutting into the sentences of the customer. And the customer just got angrier and angrier and more frustrated, because they couldn't finish their sentences, because there was constantly this interruption of, yes, we are sorry, I'm sorry, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And it's just like, why does this agent keep saying that? It's like not helping at all. It's like ruining the whole call. And the client was so really angry at the end that they actually asked for a supervisor to call them back, and that I had to call them back. And interestingly, the communication was completely different, because I focused on the solution of the problem. Instead, I just stated, yes, we understand, but let's find a solution for this. And we went through a very calm and collected, normal way of communication. So that was really like a fresh prime example for me that empathy is nice, but don't overdo it. And if you want to really show empathy, do not use the same phrase over and over and over again. Like, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No, because that will seem basically dishonest. that will seem after a while for the caller like you're mocking their situation. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, because they do not see your face. They don't know how serious you are, how honest you are with this thing. So yeah, this can develop into something really bad. So if the company specifically asks you to be really empathetic on the phone, use it with good measure. Really don't overdo it, because that will just cause more problems than it could. Now, one more thing that I would include in this video is your mood. Whatever your mood you're in at the moment, whatever your state of mind is when you're sitting at the desk, on the phone, whatever, never ever let that influence your calls. When the call comes, you are the agent. You're not Bob whatever with a dozen problems with mortgage and IRS bugging you with papers, or whatever problems you have in your family or with friends. No, that person doesn't exist when you're in the call. In the call, you're just agent who is supposed to help the caller. That's it. You have to make that very, very strong separation in your mind, and it has to be instinctive that when the call comes, you click over, you switch over into agent mode to resolve the issues. And that will be also really beneficial for your work. You can let steam off when you mute the caller. Just really make sure that you muted them, because of course sometimes they come up with a problem or with some remark that just blows a fuse in your brain, and you're but never let that go into the call, because especially when they are recording the calls. So never let that seep into the calls. Just really focus, just become this clear, sharp blade-minded agent that, yeah, let's focus on this, solve this, and we have a permanent solution. By the way, if this comes up again, you can solve it with this and that click, and that's it. Anything I can help you with? Thank you, bye. And let them hang up. Never hang up first. Let them hang up, because they have to do it. So yeah, peace of mind. That's really important. And this way, actually, you can also prevent some of the psychological after effects of this kind of work, because especially lately I've seen that a lot of people are just breaking mentally. Quite a number of friends of mine and colleagues and all that, they just burnt out, but really seriously, not just like, oh, I think I'm burnt out because I'm so tired. No, they literally developed very severe mental issues. And yeah, this thing that you keep a clear head during the call and you switch over, that can actually help you associate the calls with a positive experience, which can help you not be that scared of the calls and not be afraid of what kind of calls come in. Because when a call comes to agent mode, solve it, and then you can go back to whatever personal problems you have. And that can really be beneficial in the long term. That's how you can survive 20 years in IT support and call centers. So just from my experience, just don't overdo it. Okay, that would be it for this video, for the second part of the soft skill training. There might be later on a third part. At the moment, I sort of ran out of the main ideas, but we will see how this goes on later. So if you like this video, then likes are highly appreciated. If you know someone who would benefit from this video, then please share the link with them. And if you'd like to see more of this content, you can subscribe. That's highly, highly appreciated. And if you wish to support me through any other means, you can do that either by supporting me on Patreon, where I'm sharing exclusive content and early access. Also, you can buy any of my products, any of the products with my designs via Redbubble, and maybe a copy or two of the Adventures of the Smallest Astronaut, the coloring storybook for kids, available in all regions of Amazon currently. So that would be it for today. Thank you for your time. Bye.